Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Photo Brigade 100th podcast celebration here at Adorama's event space in New York City. Thank you all for tuning in live, photobrigade.com/live. Thank you, Mike Eisler, for being my first guest. Mike was actually my co-host on my first ever podcast, which we recorded in your house.
In my house.
In your apartment.
Exactly, at my dining table.
At your dining table with Vincent LaFerre, which is great, our good friend Vincent LaFerre. So we're going to get to you, but before we do, I just want to say, do a big shout out to Adorama for hosting all of these video podcasts, which have been, really amazing since we've started them. Also wanted to thank Canon Professional Services for all of their support, all that they do. They're really great. Check them out, CPS. You can check them out here on our mugs, Canon Professional Services. What else do we got? Temba Bags have been a great supporter. We're giving away a couple of bags at the raffle, so make sure you sign in if you're here. They've got some great new lines out. What else? And Photo Shelter. Thank you, Photo Shelter, for all your support. So with no further ado, back to Mike. How's it going, Mike?
It's going great. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Well, let's start a little bit with our background. You and I, we've been good friends for almost a decade now, I'd say.
Yeah, I think right about 10 years at this point. Yeah.
And did we meet, I think we probably met at a poker table.
We definitely met at a poker table. I think that's where we've met a lot of the other photographers that we work with regularly, and it's just a great social gathering point for everybody.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the big things that I think so important about the photo business, especially here in New York, is the networking that you do. And that's one of the big things that we try to do here in with our Photo Brigade events, is bring the community together, have a good time, and network. So always getting out and doing those, getting into activities like poker, if you have poker.
The beer and wings night.
Beer and wings night. They've got a beer and wings night, photojournalism beer and wings, which is really great. And there's many more events, especially here at Adorama. But so anyhow, let's talk a little bit about your background. I know that we've done a podcast together in the past. I think it was it audio at that point?
It was only audio, the very first one.
Right.
And then we did number, I want to say 17, somewhere around there at your place.
Where
and
I interviewed
was,
you.
Also audio only.
Audio only. So we started doing the video podcast only like around 60. So, we've done about 40 video podcasts. Hey, my wife's here. So
that means I actually had to put pants on today.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Thank you. We are clothed from the waist down. I promise you. So you're from Florida. Let's talk a little bit about, because usually I'm talking to straight up photographers or video guys. You are a photographer. You started out doing like wakeboard photography. I remember was your big thing. Right. But you're more of a digital tech and explain what you do.
It's hard to really put a single title on it, but I came out of a commercial photography background, studied commercial photography in California at Brooks about 10, 12 years ago, and then moved out to New York shortly after that. And now I do digital tech work mainly. I do consulting on a variety of technical projects, things that sort of fall outside of just the digital tech capture realm,
right?
As well as working on aerial jobs, and that's a specialty of mine.
Yeah.
Is working on these.
You're also a pilot yourself.
That's right. I fly fixed wing.
You fly fixed wing. You've flown me to a Bieber concert. You flew us to a Bieber concert one day. We took a little Cessna out to Connecticut one time. That was fun.
New Hampshire, I think it was.
New Hampshire. Oh, yeah. New Hampshire. That's right.
Yeah.
That would be a little further away. So you got into this aerial work, and I don't know, maybe we should get into looking at some of what you put together, because you put together a bunch of behind-the-scenes photos and videos from all these shoots that you work on.
That's right. I've got a pretty wide variety behind-the-scenes imagery here, starting from some of the more standard things on to the little crazier things that we get into. So I've got a architecture client, or actually a couple architecture clients that I work with, and it's really interesting to mix the different realms. Some of the clients that I work with, they do everything from architecture to still life, to portraiture, to aerial, and everything in between. So a lot of that is early mornings, late nights, waiting for the light. And it's a lot more calm than when we're burning jet fuel at $2,000 an hour.
When we talk about architecture clients, you're working for the photographers.
I work for the photographers.
You have been on with me as a digital tech in various capacities on numerous occasions. So you work with folks like me. Vincent LaFerre is one of the guys you work with a lot doing aerials.
Right.
And who's this?
This is Albert Vecherka, and he's one of the top photographers for a collaborative called Esto. It's a very big architecture photography agency. So we've gone out to cover projects around the country and beyond for industrial clients, schools, apartment buildings, research labs, and really everything in between. Chip fabrication facilities, those are interesting. We wear bunny suits just like out of the Intel commercials, full Tyvek coverings. So the locations we get to go to for those projects are really interesting. But it's always difficult in the summertime doing those projects because we're constantly chasing the light. And when you have a sunrise that may be 6 a.m., we're arriving at 4 a.m. The sun sets at 8:45, and we'll be there till 11 p.m.
It's because you want to catch that ambient light kind of mixing with the natural light.
Exactly. When you're doing certain shots where you're trying to balance the indoor and outdoor quantity of light, you've got to wait for that perfect moment where the outdoor may be rising to meet the indoor light levels.
Right. Cool. So a lot of architecture clients, that's really cool. And architecture is actually one of those jobs, like, it's harder than you think. It's not just showing up and shooting the outside of a building. You have to use specialty lenses, tripods.
Not only that, we really aim for everything to be as perfect as we can in camera without relying too much on Photoshop. So a lot of that can be simple labor of moving furniture a quarter of an inch here or there to get things to line up just perfectly, or it can be dragging construction fences out of the way frequently because we're always trying to photograph projects right before they have their general opening while everything is in the best condition. And usually these photos are used for opening ceremonies or architectural digest covers, that sort of thing, where the project has to be brand new. So there may be times where there's no landscaping installed, and we'll shoot the building in ways that might hide that and come back after that's installed.
Very cool.
So there's always unique challenges on that sort of thing.
Very cool. Very cool. Let's move on, see what kind of other stuff you work on.
So this is other digital tech work for a hair care company. We had a photo booth set up where we could live stream the video coming out of it as well as capture images on the fly, and the models would step into the booth and trigger their own sort of selfies, if you will, with the foot pedal that we installed, all feeding into Capture One as well as some other software that pumps that into the web live. And we were making prints on site for the clients. Talking about digital tech work, this is set up with a 27-inch iMac in a cargo van.
Oh my goodness.
So you never know where you're going to end up.
Why are you in a cargo van with an iMac like this? Are you parked? Are you chasing something, or is this just your office for the day?
That was my office for the day, and there was a crew that was walking around on the street right near the cargo van shooting to memory card, and then we had runners who would bring the cards on back, and I was doing edits and processing in the van on the large screen iMac so that we could turn things around as quickly as possible.
Wild.
So you never know where
you
end
never
up.
know, yeah. Oh, this is
just
Monica's.
like this. Exactly.
So we had Monica Stevenson on a few weeks ago. She's like podcast 97 or something like that. But this was for her horse project.
That's right. That's right. We did a number of those horse projects, 4 or 5 different photographs of her horse in different seasons, different environments. And so we would take an entire studio setup, if you will, out into the woods to create this. So you never know where you end up.
Right.
These are some of the images we would get from that, the airbrushed horse. And so we actually took paint with a large automotive airbrush paint can and would spray down the horse, or she would rather, and capture this all on medium format.
With eco-friendly.
Absolutely.
Stuff.
Non-toxic.
Oh, yes.
This was with our friend Pete Weisner.
Pete Weisner in the back.
Wherever he happens to be.
You had a job for Temba Bags.
So we got to work with, was it Biami? Is that? Bayamba, the sumo wrestler, for a line of 10 but tough advertising. So that was a lot of fun, getting to work with a variety of different people, larger than life characters.
That's great. Where is the studio? Is this
this was at a Bathhouse.
Bathhouse Studios in New York City.
Yeah, good friends through Eddie Adams and other connections.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. So this is the typical station that I'll bring on set. Packs into 2 10 cases right now. I bring a 27-inch NEC monitor as well as a laptop setup with tables, printer, Wi-Fi points. You can stream to iPads, iPhones while we're shooting, capture from there.
So that's one of so when I have a job as a photojournalist myself, working for places like the Times and other publications, usually I go take a portrait, bang it out, it's a few minutes, and send it off afterwards. But when you have the clients, like a corporate client, a big book cover, or commercial type thing.
Sure.
It's really important because you have art directors, you have the client there on the site. You want to make sure that they can see what they're getting.
Exactly. There are a lot of eyeballs that need to be on that image to
Yep.
make decisions
Yep.
and provide input to move forward with it.
One of the times we did a shoot, you and I, for IKEA, and you had brought a little printer where you printed out the pictures and everything. We're able to give them. I mean, it's really amazing when you're able to, as a photographer, have somebody that comes in and does basically everything you need. Like, you hire someone like you so that I can show up, tell you this is what this is what I want to do, this is the idea that I want to achieve, this is how I want the clients to view it. And for the most part, of course I do more, but for the most part, if you've got a really great digital tech, all I got to do is show up and you hand me the camera and everything's ready to go.
That's the idea.
That's the idea.
Take pressure off of you and let you focus on creating the image.
Yep.
And I really like to bring a 4x6 printer on almost all the shoots that I tech. It's such a simple, small,
This little
lightweight thing to bring.
Canon
exactly.
thing, right?
It's a
Yeah.
little Canon selfie printer. And it can just sit on my table and I can crank out a couple dozen prints a day. Maybe not be color correct, but it's in this day and age a Polaroid that someone can actually hold on to and look at and judge. This is something we did 2 hours ago. This is what we did yesterday, and have it for a quick frame of reference. And it's much easier for some people to hold a print and visualize that instead of trying to flip through images on a computer monitor.
You can see the little printer right here. I'm going around it with the cursor here. Little tiny printer. Very nice.
And it's battery powered. I'll take it out in the field and run it wherever.
So not just still work you do a lot of video work as well. So this is again
This is again with Monica Stevenson, and this was a campaign that we did for a liquor marketing company. So we did motion-controlled high-speed shots around bottles of liquor. We could compose the move in advance using this robotic arm that we had, and have a 1,000 frame a second camera mounted on the end, a Phantom.
Jeez.
And the robotic arm would also control focus on the lens. So we could pre-compose a move and then play it back at whatever speed we would like to. And we could also change the lighting and replay the exact same move and composite the images on top of each other later and get lighting conditions that you couldn't otherwise achieve through a single pass.
Wow. Yep. Very cool. So video is kind of over my head. I do have to admit when you get technical with the video world. And so if I ever have a shoot like that, that's one of the main reasons why I need an Eisler or someone like that. Many people say that too. I'm not the only one. Okay. Okay.
This was thrown in here just for fun, but this was a recent portrait shoot of a certain celebrity and also Republican frontrunner in his apartment and in his country home.
So this is Donald Trump's living room.
Living room.
In Trump Tower, or where is this? This
Yep,
is
exactly.
Trump Towers. What a view, though.
Well, just as gold covered as one might imagine.
So can you explain a little bit how you ended up in his apartment and what the experience was like?
This was part of a 2-day project. I was working with a European photographer that came in to capture a package of images of Mr. Trump's wife Melania as well as Donald for more personal use. It wasn't so much for campaign purposes, but just to humanize them and show them in their own environment. So we spent a day at their country home upstate, as well as a day in his campaign office and his home.
Okay.
Just capturing a variety of images in different situations.
And this was sort of right at the beginning when he started getting Secret Service protection and all that.
This was a month and a half ago, actually. Yep, this was after a number of debates.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So he had been, yeah. So I remember seeing a group shot of you with the Secret Service guys in the background and stuff.
So that was an interesting one when you're working with political figures, always taking the equipment through screening, and they'll bring in bomb dogs. They'll check every package very carefully.
Right.
I remember on this shoot, I had my Leatherman with me, as I frequently do on different projects, and I was sort of nervous. I had it in my hand. I was working with something, and Donald was about to walk into the room, and I turned to the Secret Service guy next to me, and I said, I just want to let you know I have this, so it's not a surprise that I have a knife in my hand when you have Donald walk into the room. Don't need any surprises then. But he said, well, just put it away.
Then he looked at you and said, I got you covered.
Exactly.
Very nice.
Yep. So moving on, this was CNN debate. The Republican debate in Las Vegas for CNN. I was brought in by our friend Vincent LaFerre to work on that project, where we had 7 remote cameras mounted in various places throughout the theater. And we would trigger them all simultaneously, and all of the cameras would feed images back live to a central station where they would be pumped out to CNN's various social media.
Okay.
So that was the setup that we had here. We've got the Instagram account that CNN's got with a variety of different angles on it, and also being able to synchronize the moment was a really unique way of looking at things where you could see some candidates close up or the general feeling, the response in the theater to questions or moments.
Yeah.
And technically that was a very difficult project. We had hundreds or actually several thousand feet of Cat5 cable stringing everywhere, triggering cable. Power is an issue when you're working in a venue where a lot of things are union controlled.
Oh yeah, unions are crazy.
Exactly.
I mean, for us, because you have to, to plug something in, you need to call the electrician who charges you $350 to flip a switch or something like that.
You got it. And in a situation where you're competing with broadcast and audio for bandwidth, rather, Wi-Fi is out of the question. You can't rely on using camera Wi-Fi transmitters to move images around in any kind of a fast, stable manner.
Right.
So everything gets hardwired on back for reliability's sake.
Yeah, we had an experience when you helped me do a time lapse for the Bieber movie, which was 3 days of time lapse in Madison Square Garden.
Right.
And we had to work with all those electricians at Madison Square Garden, which was a bit of a hassle.
Exactly. There's a couple hoops to jump through at that point.
Yeah. So I have a feeling I know who you were working with on this.
I think you know several people I was working with on this.
This is a Mark Rabilis shoot?
This was a Mark Rabilis shoot in Indiana pretty recently. Mark Rabilis is a friend of ours that he does a lot of motorsports photography, works with different race teams, doing promo work for them. And so I came out there to help him out photographing funny cars and dragsters, as well as another mutual friend of ours, Guy Rhodes, was out there. And so
great group of friends we are.
Yes.
So
yes, exactly.
Always great get together with you guys.
Yep.
Awesome. Do you have any of... Oh, yeah, here we go.
So here's some of the fun that we would do. Mark loves working with the smoke machine. It's an easy way to add a bit of drama to the shots, and in certain situations it can work really well. So we brought it out for this. This was a ground fogger that you can add ice into the machine and it'll actually make the smoke sit low, or if you take the ice out, the smoke will rise. And so we were just using that for different special effects that you can see coming up in a couple frames. This is some of the earlier stuff that we were able to do, and then creating different neat looks behind the car. And then the next one, I think, is...
that's insane.
And that's all created from a smoke machine backlit with, I think, a CTO or 1.5 CTO gel on it, just to create an orange glow.
So this is one of the reasons why you hire someone like Mike Eisler, because one of these types of, these are concepts, ideas. If you didn't have the right person working with you to get those exposures proper and get that smoke the right way, it would have been a disaster. Would have been a pain in the butt too.
Yeah, and we're working in a mechanic's garage at that point. It's not a fully equipped photo studio, so we've got a simple silk above and 6 or 8 strobe heads, and this is what we can.
I mean, that's incredible. I mean, and you guys didn't really expect that. It just sort of happened, like you were seeing it, like, oh my gosh, or did you do some tests and see that it was going to turn out this way?
The initial backlit glow on the smoke we never thought would look so much like real fire. But once we saw that the effect was really working, we ran with it and tried all sorts of scenarios and tried to really fine tune that.
I bet the client was thrilled.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, very cool. Hey,
this
Richard.
is another friend of ours. Yep, Richard Patterson on the ice at MSG doing promo work for the Rangers.
Awesome. Richard is a filmmaker, and you guys both came out to our workshop in Hawaii last year and helped out shooting some video. Great team, great people. Richard, is he here? I know that he said he was going to swing by.
He may not be here. I think he's helping one of our friends.
Oh, that's right. Our friend Abs Moving from Matt Group. That's right.
That's right. So we came out to Madison Square Garden for this promo project to do some Movi work with the handheld stabilizer, and we also came out on the ice with the Movi. We were chasing players, trying not to slip. And at one point, we also handed the stabilizer off to a professional hockey player to skate with. And so we would remotely control the Movi and remotely pull focus while the professional hockey player would skate.
Explain to me. I've heard of the Movi.
Yep.
I know that it's a stabilizer.
Right.
That's all I know. So what is the difference between that and, say, a Steadicam or whatever else?
Well, there's a couple differences between it. The Movi is falling into a family called a brushless gimbal, like the DJI Ronin. There's some other products out there that do a similar thing. but balance is achieved differently. The Steadicam is more of an inertial balance where you balance everything perfectly, and then all the control is input by the operator using fingertips on the gimbal head. On the large Steadicam, where the operator would wear a vest, use an arm with a spring in it to take some of the walking balance out of it. This is electronically stabilized. So you get the camera package balanced perfectly in it, you flip it on, and then it has accelerometers that'll counteract your movements. So as you maybe turn inadvertently or put in a bump into the system, it'll fight you, and it'll keep locked on the subject.
Interesting. Very cool. Very cool.
So this is the start of the Air project.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. We were at the poker table a while back, a year or more ago now, it's been. And Vincent says to me and to a couple other people, like, oh yeah, I'm going up, I'm going to try this thing out, you know, take some pictures. Our friend Dave Geffen ended up taking him up on going up on the shoot with him. But this turned into a huge project.
It did.
Because Canon had just come out with a new product, right? That gave you great...
It's the 11 to 24 lens.
Oh, is that what it was? That lens? Yep. But also the ISO capability.
Oh, yes.
Nowadays.
Exactly.
Gives you the ability to expose much better for night aerial work.
Absolutely.
So tell me about this, and maybe we should show this book, or what do you think?
Sure. Yeah, we can show the book later. This is the outcome of the project.
Okay.
So this is
We'll
the
show
Air
it in a
book.
second, yeah.
But this all started as, you may have heard the story many times from Vince, on a Men's Health magazine assignment. And the images gained a lot of traction, and Vincent turned it into a much larger scale project than the original editorial project. So I could just talk a little bit about these. These were taken by another friend of ours, Dustin Snipes, out in California. And this is some of the pre-flight preparations for a flight over Los Angeles. So we have a lot of safety equipment that needs to be organized, and we need to tether into the helicopter properly. All the equipment needs to be secured to the helicopter as well. There's a lot of pre-flight briefings we go over and flight planning.
Nice,
and that's a lot of my responsibility on this work. I handle all of the safety. I do airspace planning, and I can bring in my background as a pilot to really figure out how we're going to get into the positions we need to get into, what's going to work, what are the winds aloft, the temperatures aloft, different things that might affect our flight.
Very specialized skill set you have.
Yes.
I'd say.
But valuable on a project like this.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Keep on moving on.
So this was over Barcelona.
You say that right, Laya?
Was that right? A very chilly flight that we had here. Oftentimes it'll be, say, 80 degrees on the ground, and then you climb up to altitude, it'll be 45 or 50.
Interesting.
And, you know, as the temperature falls off, it's about 2.5, 3 degrees every 1,000 feet that you go up. And some of these shots are taken as high as 10, 11, 12,000 feet.
I bet that's got to feel weird being in a helicopter at that height.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the helicopters don't move that fast. You know, they're going to top out at about 90 knots with the door off. And while you're on the ground, that may seem fast, but you climb up to altitude and it feels like you're not even moving at all.
Right.
When you compare that to a commercial airplane where you're doing 400, 500 knots.
It's just like nothing.
It's like nothing, exactly.
Just like,
yep.
like a balloon or something in the wind or something.
Exactly. So we'll get back into the Air project in a little bit if you like.
Sure.
And this is another project with Vincent for General Electric out in Colorado.
Chasing trains.
Chasing trains, exactly. So this turned out to be a fantastic way to photograph trains is from a helicopter because you have a very dynamic viewpoint. You can capture a number of different angles. It's very hard to ask a train to turn around, to stop, anything like that. So the helicopter is very nimble. We can capture a number of things in a short period of time. And I think I have a short little video clip
here
of what it looks like.
Turn it down.
Yeah, make sure we're muted there.
Oh, cool.
And this is our perspective as we're shooting right in front of the train.
Yeah.
And the rotor blades later get touched out.
Oh, okay. So I see. I remember going on a shoot with you guys, photographing the Miracle on the Hudson couple, the people that crashed in the Hudson River on that
Flight 1549. Yeah.
Right. And we ended up chasing a boat, and it was pretty.
I forgot you were on the helicopter.
That was
an
amazing
absolutely.
experience. I should have queued up that video as well, but
we can certainly pull that up. And then that brings me into some of the work that I get to do with a client of mine with Delta Airlines.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of fun.
I bet.
That's what I really enjoy, playing with the big boy toys. Did we get into an autoplay type situation?
There we go.
So this is just starting off simple, working in a maintenance hangar, capturing unique shapes in the aircraft, the engines, that sort of thing. But it's working with really big toys, really heavy and dangerous things. and being very careful not to bump into anything, as you could do a lot of damage very quickly to the aircraft. So talking about some of the specialized things that I get to do, this was a system that I built for that same client for long-distance tethered shooting over fiber optic. So we built a system, or rather I built a system for this client with a 1,000-foot spool of armored fiber cable, so we could run a really, really long remote and have instantaneous viewing and review for the clients. And we built this for use out at airports on the tarmac, because Wi-Fi is simply not going to work with the amount of RF in the air there. You've got radar, you've got communications, you've got all sorts of things that would cause Wi-Fi to fail very quickly. And when you get past a couple hundred feet, copper cable, it's not going to work either, Cat 5.
Interesting.
So fiber optic, we could take it 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet. We can add in other capabilities later, live video, that sort of thing. So we took this system and used it here. The photographer was up at the top of the boom lift. We just drop a simple lightweight fiber down to a cart, and the client is down in the orange vest or the yellow vest at the cart, reviewing on the fly.
That's something.
And it worked perfectly. A lot of fun.
These are wild, these shoots you're on.
And so this is what we see. They just pump right to an iPad from the cherry picker in the distance. 100% rock solid. And a system like this could be used shooting on a beach where you've got a trailer back in a parking lot for fashion shoots, or any other situation where you really need a long bit of reach, but Wi-Fi is out of the question.
Yeah. I remember one time we did a portrait shoots of all of the New York Giants getting their Tiffany's championship ring.
Right.
And I wanted to build a photo booth, and you built me like this custom, like silly looking thing where you could, they're taking the photo booths. You always make these great custom, adapters and everything, which is another.
I love getting my hands dirty with a soldering iron and cooking up some fun.
That's awesome.
Hardware. Yep.
Nice wheels, man. Nice wheels.
Thank you. So this is leading into another Delta project where we can get into some of the next frames. We did a takeoff shot of a Delta A330, very large. I think it's about a 250-ton aircraft. And we had a Porsche on the runway in front of the aircraft with a camera system on the Porsche to capture the takeoff from the runway perspective, from the belly of the plane.
Right.
And this was part of a new marketing campaign for Delta, as they've started painting their logo on the belly of their planes, similar to some of the Middle East carriers, where you see Etihad and Emirates.
Sure.
We really wanted to showcase the Delta logo on the bottom. So here we had the Delta plane on the right. We had a Learjet from a company called Wolf Air that's a highly modified Learjet made for filming, as well as our Porsche on the very left side with a
the toys you had on this shoot.
Like I said, big boy toys. On the wing of the Learjet, there's a pod mounted underneath that has a gimbal on it, and a remotely controlled stills camera is on there. So you're able to take pictures from angles that would be impossible shooting out the windows of the plane. There'd be no way to look backwards and down or capture the nose of another aircraft from a plane easily. So this system is remotely controlled on the inside with joysticks, shutter button, zoom, and focus, and we can just capture everything on the fly.
So this plane is specially formulated for camera capture.
That's all they do. They've done Top Gun. They've done every airline commercial. You've seen numbers of feature films. And the plane is built out with periscopes on the top and the bottom. And cameras mount into those periscopes, and you can film different perspectives as well as have full pan and tilt control on those. And that's what it looks like from the inside. We had red Dragons and red Weapon cameras mounted into them, and shooting 5K video of an airliner in formation flight. It's quite something.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So cool.
It's a very crowded interior. When you think of a Learjet, you think of luxury leather seats, maybe some champagne.
Not this one.
Not this one.
But we do have champagne today, everyone, just so you know, in the back.
So we've got the operator station there, and you basically have joysticks to control what the camera's looking at while you're flying at 200 or 300 knots alongside another plane.
It's got to be especially dangerous, for the pilots, flying so close to another plane or in these big planes' wake or whatever.
It is, and those are all considerations. The pilots that we work with on this are extremely talented. They do this all the time, formation flight, and we work with pilots on the Delta side that have military flying experience for formation, as that's something that's not normally done on passenger service.
So,
So this was part of our build-up for this shot. We had The helicopter on the left side was capturing aerials from above. The Porsche was going to be on the runway with the camera system. And then we have the Porsche on the right where the camera operators sat. So we wanted to have a car on the runway to film that. When the plane takes off, it's doing about 160 miles an hour for that rotation point. So we needed a car that could do 175 miles an hour, so we had a little bit of safety margin while being able to mount a camera system to it. There's not a lot of cars out there that can do that.
Yeah.
So we found this Porsche 911 Turbo, brought it out there, but we wanted to have only the driver in that Porsche.
Right.
So we had to take all of the componentry for the video system and make it wireless. So the camera operator sat in the Porsche on the right, the focus puller and all of the other people, the director, whoever needed to see that shot, and they would run alongside.
So it was two cars going side by side underneath it taking off.
One car was underneath it taken off, and the other was on a parallel taxiway, keeping up with it within radio distance.
All working by Wi-Fi.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
And I think this is just a short, I have a couple short little video clips just looking out the window of our Learjet so you can get an idea of the kind of proximity that we fly.
Could you imagine?
To the other plane.
Oh my gosh.
And this is all extremely carefully choreographed, very, very closely planned out, and we have to maximize our time as much as we can. The A330 to run that costs about $24,000 an hour.
Whoa.
So we have to maximize the time.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty expensive chute Del to put on there.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, was this the Super Bowl ad or?
I'm not sure if this ran during the Super Bowl, but different snippets of this have been used in different capacities.
So this is where you see some of the work that
exactly. These would be images that are taken off of the stills pod that I showed you mounted on the wing. Goes through some retouching and cleanup, but this is essentially what it looks like, the final product from that. This was a previous air-to-air shoot that we did with a 737 in front of Mount Rainier in Washington State. And this is all taken from the wing-mounted camera system. And these are real. They're not CGI images. They're not creations.
I mean, they could easily do that, though, couldn't they?
They could, but there are brands out there that still want the authenticity of doing something the right way, or not the right way, but for real, actually creating.
Wasn't there something recently, like a few years back, where they were stupidly the Air Force Two or something flew close to New York with fighter jets behind it without telling anyone or something?
That's right. They
crazy?
wanted a photo op of that in front of the Statue of Liberty.
And it just everyone thought it was a terrorist attack going on.
Exactly. So this is a short little video snippet of some behind-the-scenes imagery, what it looks like during that takeoff of the jet. And you can see the camera.
How many times did you guys do it?
We did it 4 times.
So you just circled and landed, and
they circle and land, and there are other considerations for that. This is a longer take from that viewpoint. Every time it lands, the brakes need to cool down on the aircraft, since it's not flying for 5 hours or 12 hours off to Tokyo or something like that. It's doing a 5-minute loop. So we have all this reset time we have to factor in. We're closing down an airport to do this, which takes a lot of resources, and the amount of time that we have to actually capture these takes is pretty limited. So there's a lot of things that have to happen very quickly and be in play.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. That's amazing work. And lastly, and I don't think that we really talked about it much, but I see it in here, the 360 development. You've got this.
Right.
This. Oops. Here, let's play. Go back one. There we go.
Yep.
Now you were working with the Diamond Brothers, right, on one of these, or?
The Diamond Brothers, one of them, Jason Diamond, was out on this Delta project that you just saw, working with us on that, and we were capturing 360 content on that shoot as well, and I think that we could pull that up on the web.
Oh, that's right. We made some web shots.
And that was a basic 360 camera test that we've done, and we're starting to get more and more interested in 360. So this video, you can pan around. This is time-lapse starting off. The user can pan around for all perspectives, or if you load this into an Oculus or a Samsung VR, you can actually turn your head.
It's a little low quality or something, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's rendering on our connection a little low. But we did some different development work, and this is with a rougher system where we're working through some of the stitching issues with that.
Oh, wow.
But it's pretty neat to be able to see all that.
So it's really interesting to just sort of see the idea of what's happening next. 3D virtual reality is going to be a big, whoa, check that.
And so when you've got the head-mounted display on, you can turn your head and simply be in that moment.
Way cool.
Yeah.
So it's cutting edge sort of stuff that you're working on. Is there something different here? Let's see.
This is a longer cut of the project that shows a little bit more of the behind the scenes.
It's not a VR
type that we had here. This one's not a VR.
Gotcha.
So you've got the RF car as well as the camera car, number of perspectives.
So this is the more of the behind the scenes shot that kind of went out to
exactly. This went out
press.
for Delta social media and a number of different outlets.
So awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming on here and talking about all these things. It's when I try to explain you to people, it's so difficult to kind of talk about everything that you do, because what I typically use you for is like nothing compared to what these shoots are, these really, really, really high end, multi-million-dollar photo shoots that you've been dealing with. But it's sort of your passion, So sometimes I think, well, why aren't you out there just shooting, doing it all yourself? But you have this sort of passion for creating and working with photographers to build this type of stuff.
Absolutely, and I love the variety of the projects that I get to work on. I work with people like Vincent Laforet on the Air project, and I work with Puya Dianat, who you know on the Delta project, and a number of other very unique projects that I get to diversify myself. And one day I'll be up in a helicopter, and another day I'll be in a studio, and after that I'll be in a Learjet.
So before we end, I just want to show a couple of these photos from the Air project that we didn't show previously. This is working with Vincent Laforet. These are photos from Manhattan, which was the first city that you guys worked on. And the amazing thing is the detail, not the detail,
the colors of the light source that you get. It's really,
which is different than what you see. And I've been noticing ever since I've seen these photos from Vincent, I've been going back and looking at photos or watching Blue Bloods or TV shows where they always have helicopter scenes of New York City, and it's like, why is it so dark and muddy? It's like, I've seen all these beautiful photos from Vincent there, but that's just technology, in Canon,
and these are incredibly technologically difficult to capture these images. It's really not so simple to charter a helicopter and point your camera out the window and capture these.
But you guys did what is it? You did looks like 10 cities here,
right?
And here, let's show this this book. Just show it to this camera, or no, whatever. This one over here, Air, by Vincent Laforet. This thing is, a really serious coffee table book. Here, open it up.
Sure.
And it's published actually by one of our good friends, Warren Winter, PSG. But the reproduction quality is amazing. And the size.
Cover image,
oh yeah, really, really, really good stuff. So, anyhow, you can check that out, LaforetAir.com. Right.
Right.
And if anybody ever wants to follow you, you can just go to Mike Eisler on all social, right?
Exactly. Just Mike Eisler, and I'll be right there.
Is it, and if anyone's ever in the need of digital tech or specialty going up doing aerial, just has some questions, give him a call. He's a really great guy.
Thank you. And you wanted to talk about the Maui workshop.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Let me just show a couple quick clips of that. So one of the things that we did last year, I started a workshop in Maui, and you guys came along with and helped create some of this video collateral. But here we go. This is actually what we did. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to expand that from this viewpoint. Do you see a strange? Oh, well. But anyways, these are some of our student photos here. And we stayed at the Four Seasons in Maui. We Canon provided, many thousands of dollars worth of camera gear and support. Adorama was a great supporter, Photo Shelter, and so on. But basically, it's 5 days at luxury accommodations, and we go out on different adventures. We photograph skimboarders. We go on the road to Hana, which is a full day trip. We go to Big Beach here. This is shooting skimboarders, and we also go on a sunset cruise. And it's just an amazing time. And this is something that we're hoping to build out much broader throughout the Four Seasons brand, as well as come up with some other workshops. So, I think that in my lifetime or in my career, growing up, becoming the photographer I am, went to a number of workshops and learned so much, again, networking and just from different photographers. So I don't know if you've gone to many workshops. I know you've been to a lot of workshops, helping out at workshops, but I think you can attest to how important they are in folks'
Absolutely,
careers.
and I went to the Rich Clarkson workshops years and years ago. So I
Rich
appreciate
Clarkson
all of
workshop.
that.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. Well, that's it. We're gonna show the rest of this video in between podcasts. Where you're not the only one here today, so we have to move on. Next, I believe we've got Nigel Perry's gonna come on up here and show some of his fantastic work. Following, we have Mr. Shebang himself, Peter Hurley. He's going to come up and talk about his headshot work and whatnot, and all the headshot cruise. He's going on a cruise. It's insane. So thank you again to Adorama, your event space, for hosting. Thank you again to Canon Professional Services, Temba Bags, and to all of you who made it out. And most of all, thank you, Mike, for your time. It's been a pleasure. All right, we'll see you all again next time.